Here's what's coming today on the Woodworking Network podcast.
The wood industry has to continue vision casting with students, not waiting till they're in college, not waiting till they're looking for a job, not waiting till whatever. They need to start working with their local schools.
Welcome to this episode of the Woodworking Network podcast. Join us as we explore the business of woodworking, big and small, and what it takes to succeed. I'm Will Sampson. Today's episode is sponsored by FDMC Magazine. My guests are Mark Smith, a longtime woodworking educator and workforce advocate who is about to retire from teaching, and Adam Macholz, who is on tap to replace him at Reed Custer High School in Illinois. But first, I want to talk about get out to grow. There's something odd about a lot of woodworkers. They just won't leave their shops. It's like they are glued to the shop floor or the doors are locked and bolted against their escape. What I'm talking about is seemingly endemic resistance to expanding horizons beyond the confines of their business. I'm talking about not attending trade shows or conferences. I'm talking about not joining trade organizations or even local chambers of commerce or social and charitable organizations. I'm talking about not networking with other shop owners or even non-competing business leaders. I'm talking about failing to forge connections with schools and educators to develop sources of new employees. And when confronted with these missed opportunities, the response is typically something like, "Oh, we're too busy to leave the shop to do any of that." Too busy to learn something new. Too busy to explore new ways of doing things. Too busy to find skilled workers. Too busy to make more money in less time. Too busy to grow. If you are in this situation, you are really just chasing your tail. None of us can know everything. None of us can find all of the solutions to all of our problems entirely within our existing sphere. None of us can grow without change. Behold the lowly turtle. He makes progress only when he sticks his neck out. I know it's hard to leave your comfort zone, but the reality is that zone is really not that comfortable. It's uplifting and energizing to meet new people and discover things you never would have learned if you hadn't ventured outside. And let's face it, some of what you learn comes from people politely holding up a mirror to show you what you really look like. Sometimes you need to hear somebody tell you, "That's just stupid." I closed one of the first businesses I started because I couldn't delegate and I couldn't figure out how to grow without doing so. Was that a bad decision? I don't know, but it set me on a different path and I never looked back. The biggest enemy of business success is continuing to do things the way you have always done them for no good reason. Maybe your product mix is wrong. Maybe you need to rethink process and production methods. Maybe you need to update systems and equipment. But you won't know whether any of that needs attention unless you step outside and see things from a different perspective. Yes, it can take time, energy, and fortitude to reach out. But the potential rewards are phenomenal. Not only can you grow your business, but also you might get your life back. There's a whole big world waiting for you outside your shop. Before we get to our interview with Mark Smith and Adam Macholz, let's pause for a word from our sponsor. FDMC Magazine is your vital source of information to improve your woodworking business. Whether it's keeping you apprised of the latest advances in manufacturing, helping you solve your wood technology problems with Jing Wangert, or inspiring you with case histories about successful businesses and best practices, FDMC Magazine is there to be the sharpest business tool in your shop. Learn more and subscribe for free at woodworkingnetwork.com/FDMC. Now let's talk with Mark and Adam. Today, my guests are Mark Smith, a longtime woodworking educator and workforce advocate who is about to retire from teaching, and Adam Macholz, who is on tap to replace him at Reed Custer High School in Illinois. Welcome to the Woodworking Network podcast, gentlemen.
Thank you, Will.
Thank you.
Now, Mark, do you have any idea how many woodworking students you've taught over the years? What made you decide this is the time to retire?
Well, I have taught for about 30 years, have an average about 70 students. So that's just over 2,000 students. And, that's not a ton of people in the big scheme of things. There are some schools where you'll have 100 to 150 kids a year. But any place I have interviewed, I've always told them, if you want me to work here, we need to put our class cap at 15 for safety reasons. You just can't have 30 freshmen running around the shop and there's only one teacher trying to keep an eye on them. That can get kind of dangerous. And knock on wood, I've never had any kind of a serious accident in school with my students. So hopefully that trend will continue. So
that also applies in older grades. I had a college woodworking instructor who was proud to say he never had an accident, and his reason that he said he'd never had an accident is he watched everybody like a hawk on the first couple of days, and
Yep.
if there was somebody that he thought was going to be dangerous, he just figured a way to get him out of the class.
Well, we do have similar things at the secondary level, but fortunately for me, all I've had to do is call mom and say, "Hey, Billy Bob really doesn't have the skill set to be in this class. You ought to think about removing him before he removes part of himself." And
yeah.
so I've been pretty fortunate. So why am I leaving teaching now? That's a very good question. So in teaching, there's a saying that if I work any longer, I'm losing money. And what that means is teaching is one of the few professions, maybe along with firefighters, policemen, people like that, that still have what we call a defined benefits retirement plan.
Yeah.
And that means your retirement is based on your income. And, in the state of Illinois, everyone pays into one pot. And then as long as the number of retired teachers doesn't exceed a certain amount or percentage compared to those that are working, your retirement system works. And so I've taught for about 30 years. I could teach for 5 more, but in 1 year of working in industry at a regular non-education job, I will make enough money to offset anything I would begin to get by working another 5 years. And so there comes a time in your teaching career where you go, do I want to keep teaching, and work 40 years, or do I need to retire and go out and make some money and make up for lost time? Because let's face it, teachers don't make a lot of money. Now, I never went into teaching to make money, but you do have bills you have to pay. And so,
Absolutely.
yeah, I would say money isn't my greatest motivator, but it's something you can't ignore. So I'm going to hang up my spurs, let Adam take over, and hopefully get a job with one of my industry supporters in the Chicagoland area or somewhere close.
That sounds great. Now, Adam, can you give us a little bit of your background? What brought you to Reed Custer?
So, I actually started in elementary teaching, and I got into that right out of college. I was just like kind of floating, not sure what I wanted to do. I got a degree in psychology, and senior year of that, I kind of realized it wasn't for me, but I was going to finish the degree because I wanted to get done with it. And so a friend of mine had a job where he drove a box truck, and he's like, "Oh, I can get you on here, and then you can figure out what you want to do." So I drove the box truck for a little while, and that was right around the time of the Great Recession. I noticed the counts of my deliveries were dropping, and you get a lot of time in the truck to do math in your head. And I kind of figured I wasn't going to be employed there a whole lot longer, being the lowest guy on the totem pole. So then, I got laid off from that, and I started substitute teaching to keep some income coming in. And the district where we are now currently, the current superintendent was the curriculum director, I believe, at the time. And we were having a conversation one day, and he goes, "You ought to go back and get your teaching license." And he goes, "You'll get hired anywhere." And I thought, okay, well, that's a direction, because I didn't really have one. And so I went back to school. I got my teaching license. I actually got it in elementary education. So I'm certified kindergarten through ninth grade, which there's a lot of difference between a ninth grader and a kindergartner, and also not a lot of difference between a kindergartner and a ninth grader some days. But so I started teaching fifth grade, just regular education, general subjects. And I coached the robotics team at my school. This was in Bourbonnais, Illinois. And I had no idea about robotics, so I was kind of learning on the fly. The teacher I replaced was the robotics coach, and it was kind of like, we'll hire you if you want to take this on. So did that, and then we started doing a robotics summer camp. At some point, the curriculum director there came through and kind of saw, like, we had kids making the Lego robots that in theory could solve a Rubik's cube. Ours didn't quite get that far, but they moved the Rubik's cube. But I think the curriculum director saw that they were hiring for a position to create this class called Fab Lab. And when they put in for the position, I didn't have the certificate I needed to teach it. So I thought, well, that sounds fun, but they must have had someone else in mind or something. So I didn't apply. And then I got called in for a meeting. And when I walked in, I thought, well, I'm either getting fired or something else is going on, because it was almost every administrator in the district, it felt like, was sitting there. And they asked me if I wanted to create this class. And I asked, well, what are the guidelines? And they said, we just want you to teach kids to make cool stuff. And I thought, okay. So they had a 3D printer already. So they said, here's how much you can spend. And then I thought, okay, well, we'll need a few more printers and whatever. So I got going with that. And then, did that for 4 years, 4 years. And then COVID came around. And after COVID, nothing in education was the same. I was actually talking to I did a Zoom meeting with my original mentor teacher, where I was doing a 3D printing thing with her students in South Carolina. And at the end of the thing with the students, we were talking, and then she could tell I just kind of sounded burned out. And she goes, "I think maybe you should just try a new district." And I thought, well, maybe. And nothing against that district; it's a wonderful district, but maybe I just needed to change. And so I happened to be online and looking, and I saw a district close to me was hiring for an industrial tech teacher, which wasn't exactly my license, but it was kind of what I was doing. So I reached out to them to see, is there any way we can figure a way that I can fit into your program? And we did. I taught there for 2 years. And then while there, Reed Custer, where we are now, kind of reached out and started showing me the program they had there. And it seemed like a good opportunity to get on with something really good and learn a lot from Mr. Smith here.
That's great. Now, I have to say, I'm thrilled to see that your program is going to continue strong with a new teacher. I once was involved in trying to save a woodworking program in Connecticut, where the new technology teacher taking over, he really wasn't all that interested in woodworking. In fact, he was afraid of the machines. What's different about your program that wins you the support of your school administration?
Well, I would say, I would answer that in this way. When I have first started working at a school, the administration doesn't really know who you are. They think they've just hired an industrial tech teacher, and as long as the kids aren't cutting things off, we're good. But through vision casting, I am on a regular basis alerting the school, the community, the administration to all the different things that we're doing. And after about 4 years, the administration starts to go, this is not your normal shop teacher. Because what they see is massive industry involvement in my program. They see massive donations coming into my program. They see kids getting jobs right out of high school. They see kids going on to college in this area of the wood industry. They They see students doing internships and apprenticeships and things like that. And that's not something most administrations are used to seeing at the high school level. And so when I told my school 3 years ago I was going to be retiring, they were, I wouldn't say they were upset, but they weren't happy about that. And they started asking me, what can we do to make sure this program continues? And so, I said, well, we need to look for a teacher and we need to bring them in early so they can work with me and learn. Not that he's going to do exactly what I do, but they can learn how the program runs, learn who our industry supporters are, attend different industry events with me so I can introduce them. And so I think just the fact that our program has been fairly successful, they don't want to see that end.
That's great. That's great. Now, Mark, I got to hit you with a tough question right here. You've been teaching woodworking for decades, and you've been active in things like Woodlinks and Woodwork Career Alliance and all those industry programs. For all those years, the industry has continually complained about the lack of skilled workers.
Yes.
What's the solution? Is there any hope we can turn the tide?
I think there is. Um, I think the biggest obstacle right now is not for companies to realize there's a problem, because they all do. They know they can't find people. But what I have noticed is they want to continue doing the same old to find their employees. And that's just not working anymore. Um, people aren't banging on your door looking for a job like they might have used to. And so we have to look for new ways of finding, but most importantly, the wood industry has to continue vision casting with students, not waiting till they're in college, not waiting till they're looking for a job, not waiting till whatever. They need to start working with their local schools so they can change how the education system views the wood industry. I tell all my students, I tell my administration, are there low paying jobs in the wood industry? Yes, there's low paying jobs in every industry. You can work at NASA, and there's people that are cleaning toilets at NASA. They're not going to make a lot of money. And so the education system, along with the parents at home, really, by and large, are ignorant of the opportunities that are in the wood industry. They're just ignorant of it. They don't know about it. And unlike, let's say, Boeing, though they're facing an uphill battle right now,
Yeah.
see on TV that Boeing has commercials about nothing except, hey, we're here, we're cool, wouldn't you like to work with us?
Yeah.
They're not selling anything, And the wood industry is making strides along those avenues, but they have to continue. And I think one of the reasons why companies are not too keen on doing that is because they've tried it and the door's been slammed in their face, because they don't know how to approach the education system. They just don't. It's a different animal. There was a time when you could walk into a church building, you could walk into a school anytime, any hour. Doors aren't really locked except, schools after hours. But now to get into a school, you have to email and set up an appointment. They're going to take your driver's license from you when they show up. They're going to take a picture of it. They're going to run it through a program that tells them if you're a dangerous person or not. And so, man, getting into a school is not as easy as it used to. And so I have about 35 different ways industry can begin to vision cast with a school to develop a mutually beneficial relationship and to begin to change how the education system views their industry. I think I'm going to be speaking in Las Vegas this summer about it, among other things. But I think that is the number one thing they have to do. They've got to get out in the public, got to get out in the education system and change how the world sees them. Because I tell you, the wood industry is pretty doggone high tech now.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So,
And it's interesting you say this because about 30 years ago, I was actually appointed by the governor of Oregon when I lived in Oregon to a state commission trying to get business and educators to talk to each other. And like right from the first meeting, we found out that educators didn't speak business and business people didn't speak education. And the thing was destined for failure. It just didn't work. But so I'm glad to hear about the kinds of things that you're talking about. Now,
Yeah.
Adam, what's your goal taking over the program? How many students are in the program now, and what are you hoping to accomplish going forward?
Well, we're let's see, to do the math right now, we're about 15 a class or so, and we've got 6 classes a day. Is that right? Six? Yeah. So most of those are a semester long, with the exception of 2 of those are year-long classes. So, I mean, my goal really is to steer the ship the way it's been steering and just keep things going. And, obviously learn sort of some new ways and tricks, basically learning what Mark does, and then seeing as I keep going, am I going to learn anything through people I connect with in industry? Are they going to set me up? Are we going to set each other up with opportunities for growth for both students and future trained employees in that realm? But yeah, I mean, I think one thing that I'm realizing is that my goal in learning things from Mark is like, I know how to teach pretty well, and I watch him teach, and I watch him teach some things that I kind of taught. I never taught how to build a guitar, but I've taught similar concepts in other projects. So I watch those things, I relate them to what I already know, but what I don't know and didn't know is, yeah, how do I connect with people out there in industry, in professional organizations, or even what professional organizations are available and would be amenable to a teacher just coming in and saying, "Hi guys, I'm Mr. Macholz. How can we be of service to each other?" So a lot of that and focus this year is just learning the ways that he connects, meeting people, and just learning how to create and maintain those relationships with industry supporters.
Well, that feeds directly into my next question from Mark. You've had a great history of partnering with industry, but just like Adam was saying, I think there's a problem with both the educators and the industry trying to work together. And what's your secret? How do you connect with folks to support your program?
Well, that's a very good question. One of the things I've learned over the years is industry is very busy. They have deadlines they're meeting, they have employee problems they're dealing with, they're trying to fix this machine. If you go up and knock on the door and say, "Hey, I'd like to talk to you guys," they're like, "Hey, we're busy," and rightfully so. And so, though this might be changing, but for the last 30 years I've been teaching, I have found the best way to connect with industry is through social media and attending industry trade shows. So social media, even males tend to be on social media a little bit. Uh, I wouldn't say that I have all the social media platforms, but I have found that the people that are on social media have a tendency to be willing to do a little more than the minimum, because except for a few, no one's getting paid on social media. It's something you do because you want to. And I've met some of my best industry supporters on social media. It's been pretty fantastic. Of course, the other way is we attend industry trade shows like the IWF, the AWFS, the Closet Conference. We just had one in Schaumburg here. Um, and anything else that we can lay our hands on. We also go up to our local AWI Chicago chapter events on a regular basis. And so through those trade shows, the associations, we also meet industry people, and people that are involved in associations also tend to be willing to do a little bit more than the minimum, because you don't have to be involved in the association. You don't have to. And so people that are typically are they have a little bit more of a passion for or an understanding of, hey, we need to promote our company, we need to promote our industry, and so they're always looking for people to connect with. And so those are probably the biggest ways. Of course, we've had lots of articles written about our program, which I'm not in charge of, and that usually draws people in too. And so that's really networking, social media, industry trade shows is how we've met the vast majority of our industry supporters.
Now, how can woodworking businesses get involved with their local schools? What kind of support makes sense? What can they do?
Well, getting into the school to start with is the problem. I wouldn't say teachers are quite as busy as industry, but we're close. And unlike industry, where that stack of wood can sit there as I walk off, maybe, my students can't. They have to be monitored all the time. And so getting into a school to start with is the first hurdle. And so let's talk about how you can overcome that. Because even if you walk up and knock on the door, the school's locked. You can't get in. If they don't know you, you don't have an appointment, they probably aren't going to let you in. So here's some ways that an industry member can begin with their local schools to get their attention, to vision cast, to begin developing a mutually beneficial relationship. Every school has a monthly board meeting. And at every board meeting, there are 5 to 10 minutes at the beginning of the board meeting where anybody can get up and speak. And so, even if you don't know who the teacher is, which you could find out via the web today, but if you didn't know, you could go to a board meeting. And how can you find out the board meeting? You just go to the local school website, you look for the administration buttons, and you look, and they'll have posted when their board meetings are and the times. And you can show up and you can talk for a couple minutes saying, hey, I'm so and so from such and such company, and we are looking to begin building a mutually beneficial relationship with your CTE programs because we want to start working with you and build this mutually beneficial relationship. That's one of the things you can do. You can also get online and look for the teachers, and they'll have their emails listed, and you can begin emailing the teacher. And one of the things I tell all my industry members that attend my presentations, do not give up. Do not give up. It's going to be an uphill battle at the beginning because you're unknown. You're an unknown to the school system. But do not give up. I always say, don't take no for an answer. Now, I don't mean that you're going to come to the school even if they say no, but I mean you keep on keeping on because you will eventually hear some yeses eventually. And so there's other things you can do too. Once you begin developing that relationship and you get your foot in the door, you've met the teacher, you've talked to the administration. You can do things like show up at awards nights and hand out things with people and network with, you can show up to open houses where the parents are going to be there because the parents are the gatekeepers. You need to know who they are. You can get into the school and have a meeting with the high school counselors, because I can guarantee you the high school counselors don't know about you. Most high school counselors don't even know the wood industry exists, let alone their careers and job opportunities. So meet with them, talk to them about what you're doing and how you can help the kids. You can show up to career and college fairs. Most schools today have a career and college fair that they hold every year, once a year. Ours coming up in October. I think it's on the 17th, maybe 16th, 17th. And so those are just a few ways that industry can get involved. But the most important thing is do not give up. Do not take no for an answer. Keep on keeping on, because you will eventually run into people who are passionate like you are about trying to solve this problem.
Those are some great suggestions. Now, Adam, teaching woodworking skills is one thing, but what do you do to teach students the skills they need to be productive employees and potentially launch their own businesses?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, we've sat Mark and I in some meetings with industry, and they'll be asking these people, what do you want our students to be able to do? And it'll be things like respond to email. It'll be be able to talk to a supervisor, to show up and things like that. And those are all great, but like doesn't fit into a lesson all by itself that's really engaging for a student, so what we do is we embed those things in the working processes that we use throughout the shop. So Mark currently, and I'll continue, has the students building an e-portfolio, and then they use photos to keep track of the work that they're doing in the shop, and then once a week they'll take the one or more photos. They'll send an email to us and to a parent to communicate out what it is that they're doing in the shop. Through organizing the processes that we use to build any given project, we're teaching the students how shops are going to work and how jobs will rotate through, how to even use the physical space to to get a job done when you're moving through with 8-foot boards and you need to get past people who are pocket holing and putting face frames together, and how to communicate out loud. So all those things are embedded within the larger lesson, and it's sort of, we're not tricking the kids into learning them, but we embed it into something that they signed up for. This is an elective. No one's forcing them to take it. So now, hey, while we got you here and you're doing this fun thing, we're going to teach you how to live your life in a productive way and how to work in a productive way that you will be proud of, that will get you hired, keep you employed, and thrive after high school.
Those are valuable skills. Now, Mark, you're retiring from teaching students on a daily basis, but I know you talked even earlier in our interview here, you talked about wanting to continue doing something in the industry. Tell us about that. What are you looking for?
Yeah, so I'll be in my 50s when I'm done teaching, and I have great health. I love to work, and so I don't know exactly what I want to do yet, because here's the problem. As a teacher, I'm an estimator. I am a purchaser. I am a liaison between my students and our clients. I'm an estimator. I think I said that. I'm a project manager. I am a supervisor managing my employees, my students. And I actually do the work too. And so, boy, and I know software, and, I know how to use Microvel. I'm not an expert at it, but I know how to use AutoCAD. I can use eCabinets. I can use Cabinet Vision. I can use a few other things, Mastercam. And so, man, you have to wear a lot of hats as a teacher. And so I'm not sure exactly what I want to do, but I think at this point, I want to gravitate towards not actually doing the work, but making sure the work is getting done. It's getting done in a timely manner, whether it's estimating, whether it's project management. I don't know, that's as close as I can hone it down yet.
That sounds good. Well, maybe somebody listening will think of a place for you.
Yeah.
And Adam, what are your plans for the program? Do you have any things that you want to add or change or expand or?
Well, I hesitate to say I'm going to come in and revolutionize a program that's pretty top tier. So I don't immediately have a vision for I'm going to change this or upgrade something, because it is hard to upgrade what Mark's already doing. I know that we've talked about, we have a 3D printing class, and so this year I'm going to try to take that bull by the horns a bit and see what we can do to push the envelope there. And we've even talked about in the future incorporating different types of printers and things like that in that particular course. But immediately it's going to be kind of stay the course with what Mark's got and just kind of watch how it all goes, watch how I interact with the things that he's already doing, and then just look for small opportunities, incremental changes. But I don't have any massive sweeping ideas for taking what he's doing and turning it on its ear.
Well, Will, one of the things I've told Adam is he's not me. Nobody sees the world exactly the same way. And so though we're going to run the program the way I run it here and in the year he's working with me, he's a smart guy. He can take it in whatever direction he wants to. I'm already learning things from him. He's younger than me. He knows things about technology. that I don't know. I mean, he's teaching me things I don't know about how we keep our attendance on our computers. He's grown up with technology where, there was a time when you and I, wasn't internet technology and all this modern stuff. And so, I'm telling him when I'm done and I'm retired, he takes the program in the direction that suits him best because he's not me, and no one's going to think any less of him. He's his own man, so.
Well, I think it all sounds great, and I wish you both a lot of success in the days ahead. And certainly, if the folks here at Woodworking Network can help you out in any way, shape, or form, we're here. And maybe we'll check back with you on the Woodworking Network podcast when we go down the road a bit.
Yeah. Well, we really appreciate how your support of us and the woodworking network has supported us over the years, written articles about us. And let me just real quickly give you a little bit on how we're helping Adam to come up to speed. We're getting him Mastercam training, which can be partly done online and some in person. We're also going to be flying him out to El Cajon, California, and getting him training at Taylor Guitars because we build acoustic guitars here. And even though he's building one with me, Taylor has changed things a little bit. I'm sure there's lots of things he can learn from Taylor that I don't know or I've forgotten.
That's a great facility.
It is great. It's beautiful. And we're also hopefully going to be taking him to the AWFS this coming summer with me to meet our industry supporters and watch people present and, introduce him to everybody and get him involved in the WCA and all that kind of stuff. So we got great things on the books planned for him this year to help him grow as quickly as he can.
Sounds great. All righty. Well, thank you much to both of you. And we look forward to hearing great stories from you both.
Thank you, Will. Thank you much.
Thank you. That's it for today. If you're looking for more of our podcasts, you can find all of them at woodworkingnetwork.com/podcasts and in popular podcast channels. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single episode. Thanks again to today's sponsor, FDMC Magazine. If you have a comment or topic you'd like us to explore, contact me at will.sampson@woodworkingnetwork.com. Thanks for listening.